The Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro are finally here in Malaysia, and man, these are beautiful flagships that I have absolutely enjoyed daily driving them for the past few days. And while I still don't know their prices at this time of shooting, they are great phones that I can easily recommend if you don't want to spend over 4,000 ringgit for a flagship phone. And here's why. The Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro are well-built phones with a solid aluminum and glass build that fondly reminds me of the old Galaxy S8. They are sadly still not IP certified against water and dust, so don't go jumping into the pool with them. These phones are powered by Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chips, while the 12 has 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. The 12 Pro have 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. Compared to the predecessors, they have slightly smaller displays and batteries, in which the Xiaomi 12 has a really nice 6.28 inches OLED 120Hz display and a 4500 mAh battery. The 12 Pro has a 6.73 inch Quad HD LTPO AMOLED display with an adaptive 120Hz refresh rate and a 4600 mAh battery. The displays are protected by Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, which you can expect very much the same scratch resistance as Samsung's flagships. And I'm super glad that Xiaomi has pre-applied screen protectors on these phones. While on paper they are somewhat a downgrade from last year's Mi 11, their smaller display size makes them easier to handle with one hand and offer better power efficiency alongside the 4nm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip. Both phones have a nice satin finishing on the back which isn't prone to fingerprints, and I admit that I'm more biased towards the Xiaomi 12's aesthetics because it feels so much nicer to grip. Though I find the under-display fingerprint reader position to be a little too low for my thumb, the 12 Pro has a better position and they all work equally fast and accurate in recognizing my fingerprint. So one killer feature that Xiaomi has maintained throughout its flagship is an IR blaster on the top, which I think many will appreciate if you don't want to deal with multiple remotes at your home. The Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro continue to sport stereo speakers tuned by Harman Kardon and has Dolby Atmos support. They can go really loud without distortion even at maximum volume levels and has decent amount of warmth and bass. But personally, I prefer the Xiaomi 12 speakers over the 12 Pro as I feel that they produce better bass and soundstage than the latter. Here's the sound test, and you guys tell me which one you prefer in the comments. One thing I love about these phones are their haptic engines, which they offer a really nice subtle vibration feedback when you lock and unlock them and offers a really nice typing experience. But because this is a Z-axis vibration motor, the vibration strength isn't strong enough to make you realize that there's a phone call or notification if you have them on silent mode, especially when you lay these phones flat on the table. But you'll probably feel less annoyed when they vibrate in your pocket. Software and performance-wise, I love it. Xiaomi has cleaned up MIUI 13 quite a lot and it is now very optimized in most of the things I do. The phones perform snappily in app launches and switching, and I haven't detected any weird issues during my usage like I usually do on previous Xiaomi devices. I dare say that these are the best performing phones that I've ever got to use in 2022. But on a side note, these devices can get warm really quickly even when you aren't doing anything heavy on it. But thankfully, they don't feel scorching hot when I'm gaming on them. Not unless you're thinking to do it under the hot Malaysian sun, which I wouldn't recommend. Speaking of gaming, these phones perform well in the 3D Mark Wildlife benchmark, but there is a huge variance in their scores, which I'm not sure why that is the case. And despite that, I still can't get Genshin Impact to run 60 FPS on either one of these phones on the highest graphics setting, and there's still an obvious lag throughout the gameplay. But most other games work fine if you have their graphics setting maxed out. The Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro have really good cameras despite having different specs. The Xiaomi 12's main camera is the familiar 50MP Sony IMX766 sensor that we have seen in many devices this year, while the 12 Pro features a larger 1/1.28 inches 50MP Sony IMX707 sensor. They are very close in terms of image quality and produce favorable colors and contrast. Although like most phones with AI camera features, photos can sometimes be overprocessed and sharpened. But between the two, the Xiaomi 12 Pro's main camera definitely stands out when it comes to details, but I find the Xiaomi 12's main camera to produce better colors than the former at times. This is pretty obvious when I put both phone cameras in low light conditions. On the other two cameras, the Xiaomi 12 has a 13-megapixel ultra-wide and 5-megapixel macro camera, while the Xiaomi 12 Pro has a 50-megapixel telephoto and ultra-wide camera. Obviously, Xiaomi is making the 12 Pro a more preferable device when it comes to cameras, but I think having a 5-megapixel macro camera on the 12 is kind of pointless, and I would rather trade it for a lower resolution telephoto camera. The 12 Pro's ultra-wide camera is by far the best I've seen after the iPhone 13 Pro's ultra-wide lens and looks decent even when used in low light. Although the Xiaomi 12 lacks a telephoto lens, it can do very decent portraits with its main camera, although the 12 Pro is still better when it comes to brightness in low light portraits. The telephoto lens on the 12 Pro is serviceable but falls short in details when it comes to low light. When it comes to video recording, both phone main cameras will take 8K videos at 24 frames per second, which isn't something you would want to use for moving shots. The 12 Pro is more superior as all its camera can support 4K recording at 60 frames per second, while the 12 is only limited to 4K 30 when you switch to its ultra-wide lens. But sadly, either of these phones can't switch their lenses on the fly when doing video recording. On a side note, these phone cameras can record videos in HLG and HDR10+ formats, which can be useful if you work on HDR videos. As for their front-facing cameras, they take pretty decent selfies at 32 megapixels, but sadly video recording resolution is limited to 1080p 60, which is so yesteryear for a modern smartphone. Battery life on these two phones are possible and they require a charge after a day with a moderate 3-hour screen on-time usage, though the smaller display on the Xiaomi 12 can offer slightly more battery life than the 12 Pro. But if you happen to run out of juice on both phones in a day, they can be charged in no time, with the Xiaomi Pro sporting 120-watt charging and the Xiaomi 12 halving that wattage to 67 watts. They will support USB PD charging but limited to 20 watts, which is fine but not the fastest that I've seen. Both phones also support fast wireless charging at 50 watts, but you will need to purchase that fast charger separately. The Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro are overall excellent flagships from Xiaomi and are very easy recommendations with very few drawbacks. There's almost no reason to consider any other flagship Android phones if you can settle without water and dust resistance. I am personally a big fan of the smaller Xiaomi 12 and just wish Xiaomi could have fitted a telephoto lens on it. But otherwise, no major complaints on either one of them, and I love them. Thanks for watching today's video, and let me know your thoughts about the Xiaomi 12 and 12 Pro in the comment section down below, and make sure you stay subscribed for more videos coming right up because we are going to have a lot more smartphone reviews coming right up this month. It's a busy month right now, there's a lot of smartphone launches, so don't miss them out on our channel. So make sure you also click that notification bell icon when you hit that subscribe button. That's it for now, and I will see you guys in our next video.